On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say forecasting snowstorms for the capital region is definitely an 8 or a 9 when you compare to the rest of the country.
Ice is very dynamic. There can be weak spots in certain areas. It could put you in a potentially dangerous situation.
Once you get an elevation and people are going to be slipping and breaking things.
It can change a lot overnight like that.
With winter comes a different challenge.
Part of the reason why I'm here and part of the reason why I'm still here is because it's a challenge and I just love as much as we can get.
This special is brought to you by Marcella's Appliance Center.
Welcome to our 2024 Wintercast, a special presentation from NewsChannel 13. Throughout the next half hour, our First Warning weather team will break down what you can expect this winter and how you can best prepare yourself.
Now, when we forecast for winter storms, the temperature can play a huge role in determining what type of precipitation we get and exactly how much. But do you know the difference between the types of winter precipitation? Well, you're about to find out. Since it is much colder up in the clouds, all precipitation starts off as snow. If the temperature stays below freezing, snow falls to the ground. Snow can cause dangerous driving conditions and back pain from shoveling. When the temperature is above freezing near the surface, the snow melts to rain as it falls, and plain rain reaches the ground. Heavy rain can lead to flooding and low visibility while driving. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. When we have layers of cold and warm air at different levels in the atmosphere, this can lead to sleet or freezing rain. Freezing rain falls as plain old rain, but freezes once it reaches the ground, creating an icy glaze. Freezing rain is the most dangerous type of winter precipitation and can cause impassable roads, power outages, and tree damage. Sleet starts out as snow, melts as it falls, and then refreezes before reaching the ground. Sleet pellets look like clear balls of ice and can bounce when they hit the ground. All right, so we just broke down all the different types of winter precipitation and how they form in the atmosphere, but let's make it a little bit easier. We got a sweet analogy for you guys. We've got some donuts here, and each one of these donuts actually represents a different type of winter precipitation. One might be more obvious than the others, but we're gonna dive right into it here. Now we're gonna start off with our glazed donut. Now this is our freezing rain donut. Now you can see that glaze of frosting over the top. This represents freezing rain because freezing rain looks like a glaze of ice that coats surfaces, the power lines, trees, plants. This represents our freezing rain. Then when we talk about our sleet donut here, we've got our sprinkle donut. Now our sprinkle donut represents sleet because the sprinkles look like ice pellets, and that's what you see accumulate on the ground when sleet falls. And last, we've got our snow, our powdered sugar donut. A little bit more obvious than the others there because snow looks like powdered sugar. And when it comes to all the different types of winter precipitation, they all pose their own risks, but I have to say when it comes to donuts, the freezing rain is my favorite.
You may rely on the ice to enjoy some of your favorite outdoor winter activities. I'm taking a look at how you can have fun and stay safe as it gets more and more difficult to sustain that ice each year.
With the changing climate, the temperature goes below 32 in winter less frequently now than in past decades. This is making it more difficult to make and sustain ice on our area ponds and lakes that would be adequate for outdoor recreation. Data over the past 70 years shows a decrease in the amount of time we spend below freezing. The result is fewer days with ice. The Lake George Association keeps track of how many days each year the lake is frozen. Notice the dramatic drop in days over the past 30 years, and some recent years without sustained ice at all.
So while many of us want to skate outdoors, more frequently we find ourselves inside where the temperature is regulated.
Furthermore, even when lakes and ponds freeze, they tend to thaw more often or not generate enough ice to safely use for winter fun.
Yeah, so with the constant freeze and rethaw of the ice, it makes the ice weaker. And we've been having more mild winters, especially recently.
According to New York State's Department of Environmental Conservation, ice is not safe for skating until it reaches a thickness of 4 inches.
Ice is very dynamic. There can be weak spots in certain areas. If you're not familiar with the body of water, it could put you in a potentially dangerous situation. That being said, if you are going to go out on the ice, make sure you do your homework. Make sure that you are checking the ice conditions before you go out on the ice. Either have a PFD or ice picks, at least something to give you a better chance of survival if something catastrophic does happen.
Heavier equipment such as snowmobiles and ATVs require even thicker ice. The bottom line is that we need to be extra careful when choosing when or where to have our outdoor winter fun. Snow-covered ice is of particular concern because it can hide how tenuous the ice is. And just because the ice was thick enough a few days ago does not mean it will be safe the next time you head out. The landscape of the capital region is beautiful, especially in winter. Part of what makes our area great is that we can take advantage of the many lakes, ponds, and waterways without leaving our own community. But doing so safely is very important. Still ahead, preparing yourself for a winter hike and preparing a city for winter weather. We'll show you how to do both. Plus, have you ever wondered how meteorologists know what's going to happen before it does?
People don't realize how complicated it is sometimes.
Our First Warning weather team sits down with Sabrina Dami for a conversation about the challenges of forecasting capital region winters.
Temperature can make a big difference in what type of precipitation we get in a winter weather event. Conditions on the ground can change quickly as you go up in elevation and temperatures drop. Meteorologist Reed Kisselbeck shows us how to best prepare for a winter hike.
In our region over the last 5 years, New York State DEC has averaged nearly 100 winter search and rescues per year, with more people being rescued in the High Peaks wilderness than anywhere else. The reason behind most of these falls back to inexperience and unpreparedness.
We are fortunate enough to have such beautiful scenery year-round, but for those as we get closer to wintertime and they want to experience it in person, just because the trailhead looks good when you start, it can be entirely different by the time you get to the summit.
Once you get an elevation, and people are going to be slipping and breaking things. On top of that, we get a lot of people that end up with hypothermia in the winter, and that's a big issue because they're not dressed appropriately, they may stop too long, they may not have enough food, and then they also might not be consuming enough water.
Forest Ranger Baker recommends telling someone your plans and bringing enough provisions for yourself and equipment to be able to make it at least overnight if something were to happen.
So be thinking about that. How much food do you need? How much water do you need? What would you actually need to be comfortable if you couldn't move in the woods for many hours at a time?
One of the best things you can do is look up the forecast for the summit before you go and fill your bag with gear like snowshoes, hiking poles, waterproof bags, plenty of spare clothing, hats and gloves, as well as a map and compass in case your battery dies.
And DEC wants to remind folks that if you're getting up the mountain and it seems a little bit too daunting for you, don't worry, the mountain's not going anywhere. There's no harm in turning around and trying again another time.
Realize your limitations and stick to the areas that you can hike with the equipment that you have to make sure that you're safe.
For News Channel 13, I'm meteorologist Reed Kisselbeck.
To learn more about what to bring on a winter hike, we have Reed's full interview with Forest Ranger Baker on our YouTube channel. Between snow, ice, rain, and more, winter weather can make driving a challenge. Meteorologist Wintercast Martinez explains all the work that goes into making sure you drive as safely as possible.
The first snow of the season can be exciting and magical. And although it seems like time stands still for just a moment, the world doesn't stop when a winter storm hits.
We're always on call when it comes to that, but with winter comes a different challenge.
The Deputy Commissioner of the Albany Department of General Services, Frank Zioli, walks us through the ins and outs of the all-important task of your city's snow removal. Preparations for winter conditions aren't just limited to snow. Other types of inclement weather require pre-planning.
You know, anything over freezing and a little bit of precipitation can be dangerous. So we're salting the streets. We are making sure that anything's cleaned up. If there is heavy winds in the winter and trees come down or limbs or things start flying, we're there to clean up, pick up, and make sure things are taken care of.
Readiness is vital to the process, and the team starts months in advance.
What happens is the plows go on the trucks. We make sure the salt is ordered. We make sure we are ready for Mother Nature to get us on by Thanksgiving. And then we're hoping by St. Patrick's Day we get a little bit of the luck of the Irish and we can take everything off and we're heading for the nice weather.
There are precautions and procedures in place, but certain decisions are made on a season-to-season basis.
Depending on the type of storm it is, depending on a lot of different a lot of factors, right? It could take, the entire storm, right, could be a 2-week process, from 1 to 2 days prior all the way to a week to 2 weeks after.
The city is divided into 22 routes, and every route is staffed throughout storms. They prioritize primary roadways, such as hospital roads and main streets. The team works 12-hour shifts to make cleanup happen as quickly as possible.
These workers, these men and women that work in this department, they're some of the best, and they're the hardest working people I've ever met.
The department emphasizes community cooperation, respecting the process, and following safety guidelines to aid their efforts.
Number one is the public safety of the city, to make sure that we get the streets open and everything is safe.
For News Channel 13, I'm meteorologist Winique Martinez.
For more from meteorologist Winique Martinez, she'll break down how wind chill plays a factor with cold temperatures. You can find that story on our YouTube channel.
Coming up, an in-depth conversation with the First Warning weather team.
How tough is it to actually forecast a winter storm?
The answer to that question and more as we talk to Sabrina Dami about what goes into forecasting in the winter months. Plus, continuing a News Channel 13 tradition, some familiar faces will take their best guesses at just how much snow we'll see this year. And so will I in my forecast for the winter season.
I'm Sabrina Dami, joining the First Warning weather team to answer some questions you may have about what goes into forecasting the winter weather, how tough it may be. So let's dive right into it with the question of, do you guys even like snow? Christina?
Well, working the morning show, I have to go back and forth. I've loved snow my whole life. I still obviously love snow, but, snow before work when I have to, shovel it to get out of the driveway can be a little bit difficult when it comes to getting up in the morning and dealing with it. Yeah, the overnight hours, but I love the snow.
The more the merrier. Bring it on as much as we can get. I'm a true snow lover, always have been. Part of the reason why I came upstate from downstate, because there's more snow up here and I was always jealous when I was a kid. Part of the reason why I'm here and part of the reason why I'm still here is because it's a challenge and I just love as much as we can get.
How tough is it to actually forecast a winter storm, Paul?
It's the toughest. I mean, it's a challenge. It's something that when you go to school and learn about it, you don't realize how many elements go into it. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say forecasting snowstorms for the capital region is definitely an 8 or a 9 when you compare to the rest of the country.
Why is that?
It's all the different elements that come into play. It's all of the different the different temperatures at the different levels, and those big storms along the coast, sometimes they can bring warm air with that, and you have to determine where that rain snow line is going to be. It's always the thing, where's that snow going to be, where's the rain going to be, and are we going to get ice?
The 7-day forecast, right? We love our 7-day forecast, but if we see on day 7 the snow icon, right, and all of a sudden everyone's eyes are focused on that, but we're still, 7 days out, how do you, when you decide, okay, I'm going to put that on there, or I'm just going to hold off because I'm still not sure, and I know everyone's going to be in a tizzy over it. So, Reed, when do you make that call?
I mean, for myself, if I ever see a chance for snow, I put it on there, just because I would rather have people be aware that there's a chance for, even if it's just a few flurries falling. And I just make sure in my language on the 7-day I go, there is a chance for snow, but most of you are fine. It's more likely going to be in these spots, and we still have plenty of time for this to change.
Time of day, Christina. And I know this falls in your purview a little bit more, but overnight, does that make it more challenging? Does it change how you approach the forecast?
I would say it definitely makes it more challenging because, each of us comes in, the first thing we do is we look at the forecast. There are changes. Obviously, it's the nature of what we do. So sometimes you can see the models do a total 180, and this has happened before where it's gone from forecasting maybe 6 inches of snow the night before, and then I wake up and all the models say 0. So you have to do a lot more thinking and rely on kind of your gut. I would say working the morning show has taught me you need to really just rely on your gut a lot more.
We always hear you all refer to the models, right? And so for those of us who are not scientists or the viewers at home, we're like, okay, these magical things that come up in the computer and give you the information. But at what point do you look at the information in the models and then you make your own predictions based on just your experience, your knowledge, what you've learned, and do you disagree with the model sometimes? Rachel?
I think so. I mean, I find it really satisfying to look at a model, several days out when they're not as reliable, and sometimes they highly disagree with one another, and as they mentioned, they can change each model run. I find it really satisfying when they all come together as you get closer to, the day of. As you do this more and more, you'll start to recognize patterns, and a model might say something, but you might say that pattern's not quite right. You start to recognize those, and you do get a gut feeling for it.
What do you like most about forecasting winter weather? What do you find, I guess, most fun, but also challenging? What do you enjoy about it, Monique?
So, of course, overall, you want to be right. So when you get that forecast, pretty spot on, I think that's the best feeling. And I feel like we had a couple of forecasts last winter season where I was like, man, we were spot on. I think that's the best feeling.
And I wanted to point out that we do a challenging science. And part of what science is failing and learning from your mistakes. And I think that's one thing that we all do, and all scientists do. And just know that if you're at home watching and we got 3 inches instead of 5 inches, or we got 4 instead of 8, or whatever, we're the hardest on ourselves. And we're going to sit down and figure out what happened different than what we thought. So there's really no need for criticism. We know it. I mean, we know we're getting it, but we're our harshest critics. So we know when something doesn't go as well as we had planned or as we had forecast. So those are learning experiences for us more than anything else. And believe me and believe us, that's what we're doing. We're learning from what just happened.
Well, I can say firsthand, and I know everyone here at News Channel 13 sees how hard you all work, how much you care, how much thought goes into it, and how you do beat yourselves up when the storm doesn't pan out exactly the way you said it would. So thank you guys for what you do. I know that it's not easy, but what you do matters a lot for all of us. So.
Thank you.
Coming up, you will hear from some of the News Channel 13 staff as they place their bets on how much snow the region will get this year. And we'll have the official forecast from the First Warning Weather Team.
Every year at News Channel 13, we have a snowfall contest, and our staff guesses how much snow we're going to get. Rachel Teedy talks to the top 3 from last year's contest to get their predictions ahead of this season.
Coming in at number 3 on our snowfall contest is Gavin Carpenter, our IT expert. So Gavin, we're going to interrupt your work here for a second. Gavin, last year you said 44 inches for the snowfall total, came in at 31.8. What is your guess for this year?
Well, I've been doing some math lately, and I think I figured it out. I think we're going to be right around 43 inches. So we're going to lock that in.
That's what you're going with?
Yeah.
All right. Gavin, thank you so much. We'll let you get back to whatever it is you're doing here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go find our next person. First Warning meteorologist Winnie Martinez was second on our list this year, so let's go see what she has to say about this year. She's in the First Warning weather office. Winnie, hello, how are you?
Hello, so good, how are you?
Doing well. So last year you said we were going to get 42 inches of snow, ended up with 31.8. So what is your guess for this year? Can I ask you an official forecast already?
47.3.
47.3. She was number 2. Remains to be seen what happens this year, but I think it's a good guess. Thanks, Rachel. Thank you, Anik. Let's go find our winner for this year, Roger Weiland. And coming in on the top of our snowfall contest was none other than sports director Roger Weiland. Roger, we are going to bother you here. You were the winner of the snowfall contest last year. Were you expecting that?
Well, of course, I expect to win every year. So that was no surprise, and I went the lowest amount of snow a year ago.
You did. You said 41.5 inches. We came in at 31.8.
Well, let me just tell you, I'm going from one end of the spectrum to the other because by my calculations this year, my own scientific method, we will get 65 inches of snow in the capital region this year.
So a big prediction from Roger Weiland. Again, to emphasize, Roger Weiland was the winner of last year's snowfall contest. For now, reporting for News Channel 13, I'm Rachel Teedy.
The main driver for our winter weather, of course, is the setup of either an El Nino or La Nina weather pattern. Last year's strong El Nino produced a record warm winter and well below normal snowfall. This year we have a weak La Nina pattern developing, so as the abnormally warm Pacific water off the coast of South America cools, the trade winds shift and the jet stream pattern favors a more active northern stream with cooler air spilling into the northern U.S. and warmer weather expected to the south. This generally favors more precipitation in the Ohio Valley and sometimes here in the Northeast. Another player is the polar vortex. The polar vortex is a large area of frigid air, usually centered over the North Pole. Strong flow around the vortex would keep that air bottled up north like a spinning figure skater. But a weakness in the flow would disrupt the circulation, allowing for bouts of Arctic air to spill south. It's impossible to tell just where the Arctic air will spill in, but more frequent intrusions would better the chances of cold outbreaks over the Northeast. So what could cause a disruption? The amount of snow cover in Siberia has been linked to how the polar vortex behaves. With above normal snow cover through October, there's a signal that we could see colder outbreaks. In turn, with a wetter than usual La Nina pattern, this could bring us more snow. All of this gives us hints or signals, but of course there's no smoking gun. So let's make some predictions based on the available information. La Nina carries the most weight, so a warmer than average winter seems likely. Unlike last year's record warmth, with the active northern jet and cold outbreaks, we'll forecast firmly above normal, but not historically warm. With the average winter temperature, highs and lows of 27.2 degrees will call for this year's temperature to be between 28 and 30. In most La Nina years, we get below normal snowfall, but this year's signal is not particularly strong. So with the storm track along the northern tier of states and the possibility of cold shots, we'll forecast below normal snow, but not as low as last year. With the average snowfall in Albany of 59.2 inches, we'll say 49 to 59 inches this week. That brings us to the end of our 2024 Wintercast. We'll be with you throughout the winter months, bringing you the latest on News Channel 13. For all of our extended content, head to our WNYT YouTube channel. Thank you for watching and have a great night.